Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tech Sergeant Charles Dwayne Romero, 20-year Air Force veteran.
I in the U.S. Air Force.
I was in the United States Navy.
U.S. Army, World War II, it's Air Corps.
I spent 3 years in Vietnam.
Korea, Vietnam.
The Vietnam era war, Desert Storm.
I've attended King High School. Remembers, I believe it's 5 years now.
This is the very first time.
I've been to every one that John Corona's put on since he started.
This is my first year here.
This is my second year, and this is your what, fourth year? Eighth year?
7 or 8 years.
What we're doing right now is pass on the story and the message, let our children know who we were.
My dad served in World War II, but he never talked much about it. Some of the things that he saw and some of the things that I think he had to do really stayed with him. And he never talked much about it. I'll tell you what, the project too has been in part for me to honor my dad. I think all sons say that, hey, my dad was my hero and all those things, and certainly that was true of me. I made the assignment to my students, I want you to interview a World War II vet or a Korean War vet. A lot of the kids came back and said, well, Mr. Corona, anybody I could interview's passed away. But late February, early March 2001, we had 28 vets come to this campus and sit down with about 75 students.
We're putting a human face on history today, and I think that's vital for understanding, and I think we would get a little more out of it that way.
And I just kind of looked around the room and thought about what I'd seen that day, and I just broke down crying. I realized at that moment this is something we had to continue to do.
About January, we started talking a lot about King High Remembers and what it's going to be.
We're going to be interviewing veterans, and they're going to be coming in. We have a sheet of questions, and we just kind of go through the questions and learn their story.
I mean, I'd heard about it from, girls on my team that were juniors, and they said it was such a great experience.
Because it's one thing to hear about it, but it's one thing to listen with someone that was really there and hear their side and personal experiences. So it's a new perspective on everything that we're learning right now.
You gather up all their information, you basically make a biography about them in an essay, and after that you have to mail it into them and you have to get their approval.
When I was a 8th grade U.S. history teacher at Amelia Earhart Middle School that feeds into King High School, and I found out about the program and I contacted the organizer, John Corona, and I said, hey, would you be interested or allow me to bring some middle school kids, 8th graders, up to King High School and participate in this program, because I had no idea it was going to grow into the program that it is right now.
One of my teachers was in World War II, and he was a tank captain. So he would relate to some of the boys some of the things that he experienced in World War II, and historically, those were interesting to me. And I thought with going to King High, we'd have the same opportunity to relay some of the things that I had seen, and not just in Vietnam, but other places.
Someone mentioned it to me, that King High was looking for veterans to be, so that they could be interviewed by students. I said, sure, I'll go. And it was really enjoyable to see these young students interested in what was going on in World War II. So I kind of more or less related to them what happened to me and told them about my experience in the service.
My sister was one of the organizers. She goes to school at King High. And basically she was telling me, paying homage to all veterans of all eras, all branches, and they come out, share their stories.
Yeah, I think for me, I think it'd be cool. Like, I've never really spoken to someone who has been, you know, in World War II or some of these other conflicts. So it would be interesting to kind of, for myself, to hear some of these stories. So it's a little bit of anxiety, but a little bit of like, you know, kind of, I'm really looking forward to it. I think it'd be really cool.
We started about 5:45, but we're getting, you know, we got the table set up, we've got the numbers set up. There's a lot of work being done on the periphery and the portable classrooms. The very final part of it would get all the kids together and explain what tomorrow's going to be about.
We just got to decide, are we going to put 5 here?
Thank God for Carolyn Power and Jalen Barnard and Melinda Teray. They've been on top of it. Like in most cases, my wife would always say, if you don't have a woman around, you're in trouble.
Here. Yes. Yeah. All right, so can we please make it red, silver, blue? Red, silver, blue. Like, oh, I see. Still.
My sister's part of it, so, and she's a veteran, so I know how, what they go through. The veterans go through, like families staying over and everything. So, like, it means a lot to me, just like coming back.
Pick it up a little bit. That's what I thought. Okay. All right, guys.
All right, we gotta go for it.
And hey, listen. This is the back.
I'm okay. I thought I'd be a wreck because this has been a long week for a lot of different reasons here at the school and for me personally. But I'm looking forward to tomorrow. I'm all right.
So I'm just getting my stuff now. My uniform, which I haven't worn since I was 20, I'm 40 now.
I was going to bring in my uniform, but I don't think I'll do it. I'll just put my cap.
I have a number of pictures that I'm going to show the kids, as well as some, you know, the medals I've received and some memorabilia from my time in the Marine Corps.
A little nervous, especially amongst all these, I guess, veterans that are a little older than me.
The one thing I know, war is horrible, and I think most students know that. But I know firsthand.
You're gonna have to show me where I have to go too, okay?
No problem. Thanks for coming, Mr. Miller.
Awesome, you're welcome. Thank you.
All right, everybody can take a seat. I am John Cronin, project coordinator, and it's an honor and a privilege to welcome you this morning to King High School. I want to present Cadet Commander Nick Melton, who will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
King High School Remembers is in its 13th year of existence. And we've had the great fortune of having close to 900 veterans share their stories with our students. Unfortunately, with each year, we are losing more and more of these vets to the rigors of time. this past year has been no different. To my right is a table dedicated to the memories of the 18 King High School Remember veterans who have gone on to the final roll call. They were men and women who selflessly served their country in time of war and their communities in time of peace. We want to say thank you today to American heroes whom I know do not see themselves as such. Today, your mission is to share your history, your experiences, your opinions with our students. Hopefully by the end of the conversation, our students will have a better idea of where we've come as a nation, where we are today, and where we are going. We're going to go ahead and get started. So have a great day. Let's get going. Thank you.
Hi.
How's it going?
Nice to meet you. I think it'd be interesting to know how they even got involved, to know like why they chose to do what they did.
I decided to go to a four-year university right out of high school, but I found that I wasn't really successful because I had more of a desire to go out and have fun than to study. And all my friends that joined the military were coming home for leave from Christmas, for Christmas. So I started talking to them, and it sounded interesting. And then this movie came out. I don't know if you guys have ever seen it. It's Heartbreak Ridge. Clint Eastwood, the Marine movie. It was really cool, really exciting. So that just put me over the edge. I was ready to go join the Marine Corps. All of a sudden one day we hear, hey, Saddam Hussein and Iraq invaded Kuwait. You know, not thinking a lot of it. I think the only time I was scared is when I told you where we were coming back at night and we were trying to land and we almost crashed. You train and train and train so you're not scared. You're prepared. Yeah, you're prepared. Yeah. This right here is something that my daughter made. It was, she was in it's just really cool. Okay. My wife says I cry from time to time. Okay. Done with that. My daughter made this for me for Veterans Day, and this is a picture of me with some Kuwaiti kids. Landed in Kuwait City. They were very, very happy we liberated their city. And they would come up and they would thank us and give us cards and things like that. So it was really, really neat.
I'm really happy. It's gotten really smooth so far and a lot less hectic at the beginning than normal. I was really shocked. The kids moved in an orderly fashion, and the kids that didn't have vets, we got them to vets pretty quickly. So I feel pretty good about it.
So how you guys doing today? You're juniors, right?
Yes, sir.
The helicopter we flew for the Air Force at the time I was flying was the largest helicopter the Air Force had. And the guys were always calling for the Jolly Green to come in and pick them up. After all these fighter pilots had done all the things that they could do, they still got shot down.
Each story you can get is just another archive for the people in front of us. And I love that quote by John F. Kennedy saying, you can never know where you're going unless you know where you've been. So getting these archives means a lot.
You ready for some entertainment?
Yeah.
Let's see if we can get this thing to play. This is an H3. helicopter made by Sikorsky. Tops out about 150 knots. The silver things on the wing were the sponsons were extra fuel tanks. We had an invitation from a destroyer that was sitting in Da Nang May to come on out and have lunch. These were the guys that were our radio contact when we were up north. They were the best because they were out in the water. There was no interference, and they could tell us, they would give us radar vectors. These are local fighters. The little kid that went by, about 12 years old, has a rifle over his shoulder. We picked up about 20, took them out and put them, deposited them around where our helicopter was, just for perimeter defense. Those kids are 7, 8, 9 years old, something like that. Sometimes when I see this, I kind of wonder, where are they now? One, are they still alive? And two, what are they doing? They like to see us. We always had little Snickers bars and bubble gum. So we were always welcome. Air Force had a policy that after you completed your 30th year, you were automatically retired. I'd go back tomorrow.
Most of them are really proud of their experiences, and they, it really changes your outlook on the military, and you have so much more respect for these people.
I really wanted to do my service, basically get my money and kind of get out. But while I was in basic training, Iraq invaded Kuwait, which was really scary because all of a sudden now the prospect of me going, to war kind of just escalated. Each medic was teaching a different aspect of CPR or, treating a wound or, those types of things. And these guys would go around to every station and talk to people, and you would kind of go over the stuff with them and quiz them, and then eventually give them a little test. And I remember this one guy who just kept staring at me, and I didn't know why, and it was kind of making me feel really uncomfortable when I was talking. And he just bluntly said, "Are you a fag?" I was not out. I'm a gay man, so for me that was really difficult because there was no, don't ask, don't tell, and now you can serve openly. And for me, that was really stressful because when I signed my contract, there was a question on there that said, are you a homosexual? And if you answered yes, then you couldn't join. So I had to lie about that. And so to kind of be in there serving and kind of not being myself was really, really difficult for me, especially not being able to talk about it and stuff. So, yeah.
Most of my family members are military veterans. My father was in World War II, and unfortunately he's passed many years ago and didn't get to experience something like this. But to walk around and hear the stories and hear what these people have to say, they're getting a chance to let some things and say some things that I've had vets come up and say, if we'd done this 30 years ago, they wouldn't have been in therapy all these years.
I had a friend, she was actually raped while we were there. There's a big campaign in the military now as far as sexual assault. That experience and being with her afterwards and then having her leave, and she was my bunk dude, that really affected me personally. Being a woman especially, and then someone assaulting you, being your friend, it's like, okay, I was there, where was I? I should have been there. I learned a lot about the government. I learned there's a lot of stuff that people don't know. We can't talk about because, once you sign that contract, you do sign your, some of your freedoms over.
Did it make you realize that what you were doing was like really a good choice? You felt really proud of your
the drawdown. I want to say maybe that was the most history for me. Many times we used for a year, and became really reduced, especially some, children. So, it's like heart-wrenching. I had a son already, close to some of those kids' ages, and it's like, this could have been my child. It's like, wow, I'm part of this, and, you're part of history.
It was always so glorified back then. It was always so like, you're going to go in and win and have all the glory. And it's kind of like, it's not like that.
I felt that if I had to give myself up, sacrifice my life for the freedom of our country, I thought that would be sufficient for me to serve in the service.
I decided to let them draft me. So then they drafted me in 1943.
I ended up as a paratrooper in the 101st Airborne Division. And I remember after jumping out of the plane, it's just quiet and just floating down and hit the ground. It was soft. It was a beautiful day. It was September 17th, 1944. And you couldn't ask for a better day for jumping. And it only lasted a couple of days. And then all hell broke loose. And I saw the baptism of fire. And then when I started to see some of my buddies getting killed, you know, it was pretty hard.
A friend of mine, as I was walking down the road to our placement there, he was kneeling in a ditch with his pack on his back and a hole in his head. And I was like, oh, what am I going to do? And I just pulled myself together. We just got to keep going. Someone will take care of him. That was my introduction to how horrible war is. I mean,
I hope that I can convey to them that do your best to keep our country safe, and instead of going to war, try to solve the problems at the table or with a discussion.
We're going to go ahead and wind this thing down.
If you're going to scoot over, that's fine.
I should have worn a flight suit. I can't get into mine.
Well, it's a challenge. These old Air Force farts.
Now my honor to introduce to you the King High Choir under the direction of Mr. Brian Holman.
If you would do us the honor, when your song comes up, if you would do us the honor of standing and sing along with us so we can give you a round of applause for your service. First is the Army. If you're an Army veteran, would you stand with us so we can sing right along? Thanks to our Army veterans.
Over hill, over dale, we have paved the dusty trail as those caissons go rolling along. As the cars ride about, hear those flag soldiers shout as those caissons go rolling along. For it's high, high here, the field artillery, all of your numbers loud and strong. And wherever we go, you will always know that those caissons go rolling along.
Thank you, Army veterans, for your service. And now our Marines, if you're a Marine veteran, would you stand?
without you, where would we be? Many of you have heard me talk about my dad, and so many of you remind me of him. And it's my honor and it's my privilege to be around you at least once a year, and hopefully more often than that, I think. Where would we be as a country or community? Where would we be a member of the world order without you? I shudder to think where we would be. All right, hey, 13 years. Looking forward to 14. Thank you for coming. Thank you for your service.
Before you sit down, veterans, Tim, Mr. Cronin, will you receive our salute? Please say it. Thank you, sir, for your program.
Take care, buddy. All right. It gets bigger over here. Well, bigger anyway. Yeah, better. Appreciate you guys coming. Well, you want more food? Oh, no. You can sit around, relax until they can get you. Okay, I'll be here. Okay, and if worse comes to worse, I'll drive you home.
Thank you for coming.
Thanks again, Mike. See you next year, John. See you next year, buddy. See you, buddy. Jim, we'll see you next year. Over here. I guess veterans rarely salute civilians. It was nice, really cool. It really touched me. Get out your biographical essay for King High members, please.
James E. Dudek was a man who went into the Army to do two things: survive and do what needed to be done.
Throughout his 30-year career, he moved 17 times, and he flew over 14 different types of aircraft. He is quoted as saying, "I guess I just couldn't hold a job."
He is happy that his mother decided to sign the form allowing his entrance into the United States Army at the young age of 17 years old.
Makeup, food, and her lady clothing attire was dumped onto the ground by her sergeants and scolded her in front of other people on her first day. Do you think you're a princess? That's true.
Reller, not paying attention to his mother's advice, joined the active duty service instead of the reserves at 19 years old.
Use the Army because they really use you. Kimmy remembered one of the sayings people in the Army would say, and she learned to abide by it.
Even though he does not consider himself a hero, we do, and truly thank him for what he did for us and every other individual in this country.
We owe the people who served more than they will ever receive. Tom Johnson's story is a prime example of the amazing things ordinary people do for our country.
On Friday, March 15th, Alfredo Ramirez looked around at veterans from previous conflicts and said he felt he couldn't compare. Little does he know he is a hero among them all.
He explains that his time in the Marines has been a blast and that he would still be in today if he could.
Before being dispatched from Riverside in 1943, Jim had met a girl named Rachel. They kept in touch throughout his military career, and Mr. Dudek knew she was the girl for him, and he was in love with her. He even asked her to marry him upon his return in one of the letters they sent back and forth. Once he returned to Riverside, Jim and Rachel were to be married on March 12, 1946.
And it's true, every word. I wrote, the first time he left Riverside, I think I wrote him a 12-page letter.
You know, and I was shipped up to Presidio of Monterey, and I opened this letter, and it was like an epistle or whatever you want to call it. I just kept reading it. Oh, she must really like me.
For luck, she kept a charm with a picture of him inside it and carried it with her in her combat boot wherever she went. So I always had your picture with me. You close to me. Remember that?
Yes.
And I always tell you how much I miss you. I love you.
Yes.
And then you only talk to me for like 5 minutes and you're like, okay, Mom, bye.
Yes.
You're not a phone person. But I love you. You're always with me.
He only opened up about his time in the service about the last 3 or 4 years of his life. And I think he just felt that it was time to tell the family and let us know what, you know, and we still don't have everything. And it was funny, he would never tell us much about it, but he wasn't afraid to tell other people about it. He came every year, and that meant a lot to me. It gave me a chance too. The very last time that he was there, I was able to tell everybody what he meant to me and how much I loved him and what he'd done. And my dad was not unlike most men of his generation. He went about his business. He worked hard. He believed in this country. And when I see these other vets, especially the World War II vets, I see my dad.
In general, it's very good, and they all seem to appreciate. That's a part I like, and that's why I keep going back, because it seems to interest them, and they always say it means a lot to them.
I like that last line. I think that's very, very sweet. That they still consider me a hero, even though I myself do not feel like I was a hero.
I hope they, really get a sense of what it is to be in the Army on both sides of it, not just those commercials that you see.
We should always support our troops because we don't have a draft, and those men and women are going and serving on their own free will.
There was 2 things that came to the forefront for me after that first day. Number one, just looking in the kids' eyes that first day, it made me realize that how important this is for them to hear from somebody who was there. I mean, I think intellectually I knew that, but until you actually see it, you don't really understand. And so the impact on the kids was just huge. And so that was something, as an educator, that's something you want to grab hold of. You want to, if you can make an impact on a child, whether it's with a veteran sitting in front of them or whatever you do in the classroom, then that's what you're in the business for. That's what you're trying to accomplish. And the other aspect was the impact on the vets. They were appreciative that someone had taken the time to want to listen to their story. They were appreciative of what we were trying to do in chronicling their story. And then the more you get into it, the more you come to understand, well, we've got to try to save these stories too. I tell the kids all the time that everybody has a story, and that all those stories are part of the quilt work that makes up this country. I'm not going to say it's criminal, but I think we lose a bit of ourselves when we do that.